Hello, everyone. Welcome to Variety Hour for 2024. Lovely to see you all. We have an awesome lineup to kick off this year's sessions, but what a pleasure to see everyone's faces and to have you all here today. We have five speakers. Well, I mean, technically six speakers because we have our quiz as well. But we have Chelsea, Miao, and Craig joining us as in our speed talk section, and then we have Lasha and Jason joining us for a slightly longer talk. Now, Jason needs to shoot off on the hour, or maybe a little bit before the hour, so we're actually going to move stuff around today. So we have our longer talk up front, and then we have our speed talks after the quiz, after the midpoint. So I'm going to hand over immediately to our two first speakers, Jason and Lasha. Do you want to take it away? Oh, before you start, I actually want to just say I'm really excited about this. I first saw Jason present some of these ideas like late last year, and it just seemed to be one of the you guys seem to be doing stuff with data and ML that I'm not seeing from anyone else. So I thought I'm just so glad that you guys have had time to come and share this with us. So hopefully it's as interesting to everyone else as well. So Jason and Lasha, please take it away.
Thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, you're awesome to go.
Thank you. I'm Jason Holmberg, Chief Data Officer at Conservation X Labs, and joining me today is Lasha Otarashvili, Senior Computer Vision Research Engineer, also at Conservation X Labs. I'll just be doing a short intro because I think a lot of the background of WildMe is online, but I just want to set up the problem and then give Lasha a lot of time to talk about some of the innovations he's doing in multi-species machine learning, specifically re-identifying individuals in very novel and large ways. The mission of Conservation X Labs is to end human-induced extinction, and the WildMe lab has some very novel ways we approach this problem. Specifically, we're interested in population assessment. How many animals do we have? What conservation strategies can improve that number? And how do we iterate those conservation strategies so that we're continuously improving population health? We kind of do it in two different ways. Let's see if, there we go. One is through aerial surveys with our Scout product, which uses AI to get through large volumes, often hundreds of thousands of images, to try to find images that have animals, and then find and count the animals in that subset of imagery. An even larger part of our work is marker capture. How do we tag and track individual animals? Now, what I'm showing you is the old world of bird banding, deer ear tagging, but really we use computer vision to replace these invasive methods and to find animals in photographs and to individually identify them. Now, the pictures I've shown you are the easy cases, the sort of faux representations of what we do. Real-world AI, especially when you're supporting real-world users, not just producing a paper, not just publishing a model, but actually getting these models and software into the field is much more difficult. This is an example aerial survey image from the real world. I would not have found the 4 elephants that expert reviewers found and drew bounding boxes around in this image. But this is on the left there. These are actual elephants, and this is a real-world example of an aerial survey in the Casa Transfrontier area looking for elephants. This is the kind of imagery we have to deal with. Similarly, we might get the opposite, which is thousands of caribou in an image. How do we find and count the caribou in this image to help scientists determine how many caribou are in Alaska? The re-ID problem can be even more complex because we have to not only find every zebra in the photograph, and there's a great argument about whether there's 12, 13, 14, maybe less, maybe more zebras in this photograph and their overlap, but also we not only have to find them, but then we have to take each of them, extract them, and try to match them across a database of potentially tens of thousands of other individuals. Move this off to the side a little bit. So we've got to go through tens of thousands of images, find exactly that zebra or those 12 or 14 zebras from that image. And we have to do this supporting multiple users across the globe in our infrastructure. And we can get anywhere from 2,000 to 12,000 demands for re-ID per day. How do we approach this problem? First, we use machine learning to do detection. We try to find each and every animal in each and every photograph, draw a bounding box around the salient feature, whether it's the whole body or the head of a right whale, like you see in the upper right, the flank of a dolphin or the fluke of a humpback whale. First, we localize in the image, then we start using multiple machine learning models to label the viewpoint, left or right, top or bottom, label the species, sometimes label the part, and in the future, potentially even label behavior. Once we have localized the animal in the photograph, predicted the viewpoint, then we're going to run a fine-grained classifier, a re-ID algorithm. Here we're demonstrating the older world hotspotter algorithm, and we're going to try to match individuals based on apparent features. It might be splotches, stripes. Here you see the matched coat of an African wild dog. These AI algorithms have to be usable. We don't expect biologists to be Python experts, so we need to put them somewhere, and we need to make them easy to use. So in this case, we put them what are called online wild books, where just by accessing a browser, a researcher can upload their data, execute these multiple stages of machine learning, and come to the decision, which individual animal is this, and then ultimately try to export that data for population modeling and estimation to help them evaluate, to define and evaluate conservation strategies. Currently, across wild books, we're tracking over 1 million encounters. We're tracking 207,000 plus individual animals. And you can see each week we track how much data are we onboarding. So last week, for example, 3,807 encounters were reported, and we identified 447 new individuals across all the species we support, running all these different algorithms, whether it's fluke matching, dorsal matching, aerial matching. We have these different techniques and approaches that we've applied to identify individual animals. The problem is, and we discovered this in 2022 and more in 2023, that we can become the victim of our own success. Scaling AI with real-world data and real-world users doesn't work on a per-species basis. If we're developing AI on a per-species basis, we have these limited data sets that limit the accuracy and generalization to just the data we're given for that one species, and we've created a whole project effort for limited impact. Different animals have different visual features, fins, flukes, flanks. And if we keep having these custom engagements with every researcher with their custom data schemas, trying to get them in Wildbook, developing custom AI algorithms, then not only are we feeding siloing data habits by just treating each data set as this individual silo that we're serving, but oftentimes we're retraining the models, and we have to retrain them for cross-expansion, cross-application, and expansion. An example is North Atlantic right whales. We trained AI for North Atlantic right whales, and the researchers always had the heads facing up. We created a highly accurate model. The moment we began cross-applying that model to southern right whales, the data standard was different. All the heads in the photographs were pointed down. The model didn't work. That simple change was enough diversity to fool the AI model. And if we keep creating these ones per species projects and per species models, we really don't scale. We often have to retrain these multiple AI algorithms. And really, if we can only get, let's say, 6 or 7 projects done a year, are we scaling to solve the extinction crisis for many, many species across the globe? And the answer is clearly no. Multiple computer vision algorithms and architectures also get us into trouble when we're talking about scaling, serving more and more users, running more and more machine learning jobs. It's expensive to support many, many servers. It's expensive to support many, many algorithms, all of which require their own maintenance, their own custom knowledge. That gives us many things to debug, to optimize, to synchronize, all of which can fall out of sync, can have these individualized bugs, and require very custom knowledge to fix each one of them. These algorithms, fighting, whether they're matching fins, flukes, flanks, et cetera, are fighting for computer resources, whether it's the CPU or the GPU. We have, as I mentioned, somewhere between 2,000 and 12,000 requests today to do re-ID. All of these different algorithms for different species are all competing for the same resources. And then we're promoting this knowledge siloing where we need to know very specific things about an algorithm that others outside of our community might not know. So these are the problems we got into with these very bespoke per species projects and applying AI for them. Now, let me turn this presentation over to Lasha to discuss how we're unblocking ourselves by looking at multi-feature, multi-species AI for the re-identification of individuals.
The question is, why multi-species? If you think about how a non-expert human would approach a problem, they might not have domain knowledge, but they have experience. They have world knowledge and the ability to map those experiences onto new problems and get up to speed real fast. This ability lets us humans to become proficient at tasks really quickly, as quick as from showing us a couple of examples. But the model starts from a blank state. I think, for example, that for a beluga whale model, the only worldview that it has is the top-down drawn images of the backs of the beluga whales. So why don't we change this? And we had some anecdotal evidence, for example, for some species that we didn't have training data for. We would take a model that was trained on a similar species and cross-apply it. And the results were mixed, but the signal was there. So we went a step further and decided to put multiple species into a data set that could be jointly trained on, with the rationale being that the features usable for re-ID for one species could carry over to another species. Basically, we could expand the worldview of the model. So with the initial experiments on next slide, we started off by taking species from the Fluke book platform, 21 marine species, cetaceans, whales, dolphins, and sometimes sharks, and trained a single model for each of them. The bars you see is the measured performance of the expected chance that you'll see a correct match as the first ranking in the wild book. And you'll see there's a general trend here that the data sets with more data to the right generally perform better, which means that as for all AI tasks, data is king. But the reality is we don't always have data. So with the next iteration, what we did is put all those 21 species into a single data set and retrained a joint single model for all of the species together. And on the next slide, we did a comparison. The blue line is the multi-species model. The improvements are significant, especially as you move down towards the data sets with smaller data to the left. The gap we see compared to single species is enormous. What this means is there's mutual benefit for all the species, and especially for the species that the data just does not scale. This unlocks a new possibility of actually putting out useful models for the researchers to get up to speed with, to bootstrap new data sets and get to the level of to the right, which is lots of data, but it's hard to come by because that's blood, sweat, and tears of years of work for groups of researchers. And sometimes the species are so elusive that it's not even feasible to collect as much data. For example, to the right, you see bottlenose dolphins, which have over 20,000 labeled images, which is for wildlife ID standards a lot. But then we naturally asked ourselves another question. If we took this model and reapplied to a species that is not seen at all, how would it perform? So we did another experiment, trained 21 more models, but in a different fashion. For each model, we took 20 species of the 21 and left one out. And then we tested the performance for that species, simulating the mechanism of having the species not been previously seen. And the results on the next slide were quite interesting. This is the green line, the leave one out experiments. The blue line is the multi-species model, and the orange line is the single species model. What we saw is for some of the species, the expected generalization, even without training data, was just as good as doing a full ML cycle of analyzing the data, getting a data set, and doing the training. Again, the trend is dependent on the amount of data, with less species actually doing better or having less benefit with training just because of low amount of data. But what's also peculiar to see is that if you compare the green lines to the orange lines to the left, you'll see that the effect of small amount of data training for specific species is weaker than the transfer of knowledge that we can obtain from all the other species in the green line. So that's synergy. And these are some of the examples of the data points on the next slide that we used to match. But let's keep it on this slide first. The way it's changed, the requirements of training is the following. Basically, previously, if a researcher wanted to see a machine learning model for WildMe, we would have really demanding requirements, a couple of thousands of labeled annotations, a couple of hundreds of individuals. But in the new multi-species fashion, that changes. And that changes in a way that even small data sets mixed in with the big multi-species worldview domain knowledge means that we can get results much faster. For example, here we did an experiment where we scaled data set step by step. And what we observed is that the 10% of the original target data set size, which would have been 5,000 samples, 500 samples got us 50% of the way. So 10% of the effort put in, 50% of the results taken out. This means that for everybody, for researchers working on in environments or species that we don't support yet, they can get up to speed much faster. They can do a couple of labeling runs and get a model performance that's reasonable enough that they can start the cycle of using it, refining on it, using it as an assistant, as suggestions, and expanding their work in a broader, larger subset of data. And on the next slide are some of the examples of the matches we see. These are what we call hard cases or emergent properties, whereas in multi-species pattern, not only we match the species, we also match them in a more complex manner. We can match left sides to the right sides of the dolphin flukes because the model can focus on the shape and not just the texture. It can also pick out the interesting regions to focus on, so we can match full body images to partial bodies, or in cases where we have partial occlusion and wild deformation or change and shift in viewpoint or lighting conditions, which means that we keep operating in stricter environments, we keep making use of more data, and we keep making more matches for better results. Now, this is a big change in how we approach things, because now what we can do is we can scale. The researchers can scale because they can get up to speed with less amount of effort put in. Our servers can scale because the algorithms are faster and they can serve out more requests per day on an order of magnitude. And importantly, WildMe can scale, because previously when we did a breakthrough in modeling, we had these 50 plus models and somebody had to go back and retrain those. And this is no longer the case. What we can focus on is not maintenance, but we can focus on advancing the state of the art, advancing the frontier, and getting results that are actually valuable and doing it in a rapid manner, which is, I would say personally, more thrilling. But of course, all this good stuff, and if you've been using Wildbook, there's lots of good stuff, but these models have their own specificalities, their own drawbacks, and weird ways that they sometimes fail. On the next slide, we have an example match. Let's go to the next one, please. We have an example match of a beluga whale. And what happens here is, surprisingly to us, model focuses on the tiny dorsal ridge that the beluga whale has. This is a really obscure feature, which predominantly, if you ask human experts, is not really the most useful signal for identifying. The most useful signal would be the mating scars, the propeller scars, or different discolorations that really are telling what the individual is. But for some reason, the model chooses to focus on these dorsal ridges. And it does its task well. it set the state of the art for the beluga whales, but there is a question, which is why focus on the dorsal ridges? Is it because they have signal that we humans could not perceive with our own eyes, or couldn't think would be useful? Or is it because it just hasn't learned any better? Why wouldn't it use these scars? And the answer is, it won't tell. And that goes for the cases of all the other species. We have these matches, we have these activation maps of model looking elsewhere, and even if they make sense, they don't really tell the same story that we would expect from a human expert. So the bottom line is, what is a model? A model is a distillation of expert knowledge bottled up in a ready-to-use, simple-to-serve package. But it is not really, even though it mimics the expert interaction, it mimics the outcomes that the expert would do in being in works with the task. It actually works really differently. It's free to choose what to rely on, and its principles are guided by linear algebra and not by neurochemistry. So we get these interactions, this black box effect, where we get the results, but we never really know where or how. So this gives us a new broad discussion that we can talk about what really is a model and what place it has going forward in the next stages of research. And what I think a model is not really a next better version of ourselves, meaning to substitute us, but it's a companion. It thinks differently, it works differently, its complexity, its notion of complexity is way different than what is for ours. So we need to collaborate. So on the next slide and the slide after, I have this couple of points of what could be next. And what could be next is a bit of a sci-fi, but really is a reality that we're right now working on, which is to move from the black box to a companion. Instead of getting just the results, be able to start a dialogue with the model, ask why it has made the decisions it has made, what underlying assumptions it made to lead to that. And if it had made the same assumptions for all the other cases, because sometimes you find out something, your model has been acting up, say, and you want to go back and rectify all the other cases the model could have misacted in the same way. You want to curate your data set, you want the model to cross-check itself, go back, fix the errors, and tell you what it does. So in the end, what we're trying to do is this mix of visual language models. So instead of having MuID, have a language part, including to the model, which you could interact with, which you could ask research questions, pick its brains, know how it ticks, get to know it better, and also provide your own suggestions, guide its behavior in how you want to do it. And with that, we probably are advancing towards the next step of the human AI interaction, which goes from this black box to a companion. Hope not overdue, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We're slightly behind time, but Rob, do you want to ask your question real quick?
Yeah, great talk. Very exciting to see this. I was just wondering, with the multi-species model, how similar do the species have to be to get the kinds of gains that you are seeing? Like, for example, could you add seals to your model with dolphins and whales and expect to see good results or not?
Yeah, great question. So initially, we started conservatively building up species on the notion of how similar they are. So we started with just the fins, expanded to all the marine animals, and are now expanding to all the animals, terrestrials, faces, different approaches. And what we see is for now, we have not hit a stopping wall for mutual benefit as of yet. But there's also another interaction, which is you probably should expect your model to generalize better closer to the domain. So if it's only been trained on fins, it probably does better on fins. But another thing is, if you introduce a completely new species, for example, seals, what you can expect is if you jointly train less amount of data than you would usually do for a new species, the model gets up to speed much faster. Meaning small data sets now have bigger impact than they previously had. And we hope that with larger architectures, even more training data, we kind of expand this bubble of knowledge or coverage, whereas the barrier to entry becomes lower and lower to the point of reducing it to zero shot, even to a distinct species. But that's to be explored.
Okay,
Great.
there's quite a few
Thank you,
questions. Sorry, Rob, I just spoke over you. There's quite a few questions happening in the chat, so I'm going to pop you over to pick them up, and I think there'll be a bit of some of the other talks are going to be interesting in this context as well, and we'll also have the after hours time to have more of an open discussion about generalized models, and I think this is a really big breakthrough from you guys and what we're seeing in ML. I am not an ML expert, but in my understanding, this is like a really significant jump forward. So thank you really very much for coming along and sharing with us. And I don't know, keep up the good work. That feels a bit wrong to say, but yeah, it's really exciting. Right, I'm going to throw it over to our mid-show entertainment. I think Jake's starting it off. Is that right?
Okay, let me just share my screen.
Well, Henry's starting it.
So I'm going to quickly share my screen. So can everyone see the ad break? Yes, they can. So I am going to immediately hand it over to Jake. I just wanted to sort of step and share my screen. So Jake, please take us away with badges.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I won't take too much of your time. I just wanted to quickly mention our new website feature, badges, which some of you may have seen, which are basically achievements you can earn and level up using the website just by commenting or posting. In fact, all of our speakers today will earn a WILDLABS speaker badge, which you can see I think it's the dolphin on screen. And if you're interested in earning badges, a good place to start is to try and get your community involvement badge, specifically the Sprout badge. But I will post links in the chat and you can go have a look. I've made some articles that you can read if you're interested. And I think it's handing over to Steph now.
Yes, our Women in Conservation Technology program is running for the 3rd year and has just opened for applications. It's a 6-month training program for early career women working in conservation. We give them foundational training in different technology tools. It involves 2 in-person workshops and internships and training in between. And so it's open for applications right now, so please share it amongst your networks and help us find our next cohort of amazing early career women and bring them into our community and support them.
Now handing it over to Adrian, I believe, to tell us about the exciting news around our awards.
Yeah, thank you. This is official. You know our awardees, the cohorts for the 2024 WILDLABS Awards. Here are the face of all the teams that are represented. I will share in the chat a small video that our amazing Alex has done presenting them, and I will share also the link to our website to explore what are the amazing topic we have been awarding, from conservation in Zimbabwe to conservation in the Andes using tech. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. I just want to say that it was the funnest and hardest 2 months reading through and selecting our awardees, and our team just had the most amazing time reading about all of the work that you're doing, and it was just the most inspirational thing for us. So thank you for everyone who took the time to apply, and congratulations to all of our awardees. And we are using all of the information that you've shared with us about your work to try and secure more and more future for this program and hopefully make it even bigger in future years. So thank you so much.
Yes, congratulations, everyone. And now it is back to me for our Variety Hour quiz, which, if you don't know, is our regular segment where we sit back, take a breather to answer some questions before getting back to our amazing speakers. And I thought, because this is the first quiz of the new season, we would just stick with the overarching theme of conservation technology. So the questions will be pretty broad today. I've also learned from feedback that my previous quizzes have been too difficult, so I slightly adjusted the questions for this one a little bit. And we're just going to have 5 questions. So please write your answers down in the chat below as I go through, and keep a record of your score if you want. And then, yeah, we can check back in on who got the highest scores at the end. I'm just going to get the chat up and running now.
You want me to be your assistant?
Would you like to read out the questions? And
No. I'll read out the answers from the
you can,
chat.
You can be the chat. Yeah, that actually works a lot better. Okay, Steph is the chat assistant. Okay, Variety Hour quiz. Here we go. I think we've got a noise coming up. Is there a noise playing?
No. Oh yes. Ooh, that's fun.
There we go. My AV's a bit, so I can't actually hear it, but I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Okay.
Where's the bum 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 bum?
Look.
We can bring it back.
Well, I liked that one. That was very upbeat and hopeful. I liked it. All right. Carly has noted disapproval. Henry, we'll take that feedback on board.
Feedback taken on board. Question 1. What acoustic monitoring devices do? And this is a multiple choice. Number 1, they filter out unnecessary noises. Number 2, they amplify sounds for better hearing. We thought we'd just start with a nice easy one. Number 3, they detect and record vocalizations. Or number 4, they play music to attract wildlife.
We have frustrate me. What don't they do? Record sounds. Number 3. Three. Whoa, we have 3 detect.
I think 3 is the right answer. Oh, someone said 4.
Wildlife well, playback devices. I would just.
Yeah. I was gonna say there could be an argument made for really all 4 of these, actually.
This keeps happening, and I love it. This is great. I'm going to stop doing multiple choices in the future. Okay, number 2. Everyone record the correct answer. What is the generic name for this device? And this, when I say generic, I just mean like, the broadest name. If you want to write something very specific, please be my guest. Here it is. Apologies for the lemurs in the background.
No, that's
how dare you apologize for lemurs?
Unrelated lemurs.
Charlie is our lemur. Okay, wait. Technically, recording camera,
yes.
biologger. Do we get a badge for answering correctly? On a seal, GoPro, seal, deck.
Okay, we've got any more?
Criticam? Camera trap?
This is harder than I thought. Well, I suppose it could be a Criticam. The answer that I've got is biologger, and technically, a biologger, in the most general sense, is a tag attached to an animal that logs and relays data about the animal's movements. So I did, and everything else. So I did say it was a generic answer. So if you thought biologger or said biologger, please give yourself. I think I saw Adrian getting the correct answer. Please also make a case for why it is many other different things in the chat, and Steph will decide who gets points.
No points for anyone.
Okay.
No, that's not fair. Sorry. Okay.
Which technology uses passive acoustic monitoring to track marine mammals? Is it radio telemetry, hydrophone arrays, satellite imagery, or LiDAR scanning? What could it be?
2, a lot of 2s.
A lot of 2s.
Hydrophone arrays, 2, a lot of 2s.
I
Frank
think
is
we've got
distracting. Frank's distracting the chat with chat about badges, of course. Classic.
The correct answer is hydrophone arrays. Again, picture unrelated. The key is in the name. Hydrophone array being a collection of multiple hydrophones that can detect sounds from multiple directions in the water. Okay, what is LiDAR technology commonly used for in conservation efforts?
Rob is getting so caught on the biologging image. Rob, we will bring it up in the after hour, and you can delve in. Tree distance measurement.
Measuring how fat as well.
Yep, good. Creating 3D maps.
Sorry, I haven't actually done the things yet, but I just wanted to review the chat. Is it monitoring air quality, assessing soil erosion, tackling marine species migration, or mapping forest canopy structure? You've got to pick one of these. 4. Yeah, I just got distracted by Carly immediately just saying tweeze in the chat. So yes, correct. Mapping forest canopy structure. Like sonar, it's of course it bounces out a laser and then detects distance by having it shoot straight back at the sensor. And the last one is, what does the term SMART commonly stand for in conservation tech? The nearly ubiquitous term. Is it systematic monitoring and remote tracking? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound? Spatial monitoring and reporting tool? Or sensor monitoring and remote tracking?
This is potentially controversial. 2. Alex says 1. 3. 2. 4. No, 4 was from the last one.
I also think that there are 2 very real answers here.
Agreed. 2. 1. 2. If you're a project manager, number 3.
Yeah, the answer is, well, we'll give it to 3, but yes, 2 is also correct, because 2 basically refers to project planning and is doctrine that's kind of taught across conservation as well. But yes, we always hear about, the SMART tool, spatial monitoring and reporting tool. So yes, I see now that there are also, we need to stop doing the multiple choices. Yes, thank you very much. Record your scores. Did anyone get all 5 correct? Please write down in the chat.
Yes. Honesty system, everyone.
Honesty system.
Do we think about implementing a quiz badge? A quiz winners badge? Ooh. Maybe. Okay, Rob got excited. Adrian got excited. Maybe.
We would need there would need to be more clarity on the questions and the potential correct answers, because I still think arguments could be made. Okay. So
I will leave my email in the chat. Please send all feedback email. Thank you very much, everyone. In the interest of time, I'm going to hand back over to Steph, who I think is going to take us into our next speaker.
Nice. Okay, we have perfect amount of time, maybe, if we're on time, for our next 3 speakers. Right. I think we're going to start with who should we start with? Craig. I think let's have a complete change of pace. Do you want to go first? We're going to go Craig, Chelsea, and then Meow. Does that work? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Shall I go?
Yeah, Craig, do you want to take it away? You're going to tell us about TagRanger, is that correct?
Yeah, can you see my screen?
We can. Talk us about tracking.
Marvelous. Okay, thank you.
And maybe you can give us a definitive answer on that biology question.
Oh, I'm last person to ask on that one.
Right, carry it away. Take it away.
Okay, so I'd like to talk very quickly today in the 5 minutes we have available about TagRanger. It's a product that we've launched just before Christmas this year. We're describing it as a unique high-performance way of finding, tracking and monitoring animals. Particular emphasis on the finding element of that. The TagRanger system consists of a highly portable, multifunctional platform, extensive configuration and capable of operating completely offline. So those are the 4 key USPs, if you like, of the system. I'll go into those in a moment. The components they consist of the finder, is the device on the left, the green device, the tag, obviously the small brown device as shown in the image, and the TagRanger app running on an Android smartphone. So those are the components you need to run a basic TagRanger system. The applications are, in one sense, there's some fairly traditional ones in here, but there are also some quite special ones too. So the first one is a locate on demand capability. And this is where you can wake up your tag at any time just by sending a message to it over the system and getting a GPS location and some other device parameters returned to you. The second one is live tracking, which is a fairly traditional tag capability where the tag periodically sends its position to your network. The slight difference here is that we can completely schedule that if you want to only send positions during the day or during the night or between 10 and 11 in the morning. You can set up a system to do all of that, and you can in that way get the most information out of your data, but also save precious battery life. Finding is a key part of this system, and the idea is that you don't just want to know where something is or where something was, but you actually want to go and find it, literally get within touching distance. And we've got two features in TagRanger which allow you to do this, one of which acts like a VHF pinger, giving you a relative power measurement to your tag from a number of pings, and you can home in on your tag using that methodology. When you get quite close, within 150 meters, further if you're in a good line of sight environment, you get the device can switch to a distance measurement in meters. And again, you can home in doing a hotter, colder approach until you're literally within touching distance, and your feedback is telling you that you're a meter or half a meter away from your tag. And the final application there is logging, again, fairly traditional, but there's 2 megabytes of storage on board the devices. They record all events, all GPS positions, and some sort of systematic features as well. The key technologies within the TagRanger system are 4 radios, basically. So the most important one is a LoRaWAN ad hoc network. So what we've done is we've taken the LoRaWAN standards and we've customized those for use in TagRanger. Now, the Finder, which is the device, the green device with the long antenna on it, that goes with you. And that becomes your network. So that goes wherever you want to go. You don't need satellite, you don't need cell phone network connections. You just go wherever you want and you carry your network with you. And that gives you up to 20 kilometers range with no network costs and no infrastructure required. The UWB radio is the high performance distance measurement tool. And that can literally give you distance measurements with a centimeter scale precision. And because this radio also supports high data rate transmission, we use that for remote data download when you're within, say, 30, 40 meters of a tag. We use Bluetooth to connect the Finder device, your network device, to your smartphone. And the smartphone is running your control center application on there. And GNSS is the GPS and the other global satellite positioning tools. The smartphone app is the real, like I said, control center for the whole TagRanger system. This pairs using Bluetooth with your Finder unit, and it provides your interface to show you mapping, and online and offline worldwide mapping is supported, so you can really go off grid and still take offline maps with you. We use the app also to configure the tags and the other devices in the system. And we have a few concepts here where you can set up profiles which you can roll out to a number of devices. So this is good for being consistent with your network setups, for example, or for having different profiles for different scenarios which you can roll out to different banks of tags. You also have this concept of banks where the tag can support 5 different configurations, and these can be changed in the field remotely using the Finder over the LoRaWAN network. And this is good if you want to have periods of high tag usage, or if you want to just put it into a longer term sleep mode when you're not really interested in any feedback or interested in interacting with a tag. The configurations are extensive, can be a bit bewildering at first glance, but we have full capability to set calendars for the GPS schedules for making transmissions over the LoRaWAN network, operating things like geofences and different modes of radio communication. You can also do things like tag naming and sort of housekeeping functions as well. The app also is your interface for actually messaging your tag and getting the feedback from it, displaying the pin on the map, for example, giving you data over the battery status or the last known GPS coordinates of the tag. And all of this has a background cloud account, which allows you to back up your settings. All of your profiles and configurations will be backed up in the cloud. So if you damage your phone, or you lose your phone, or you damage the Finder, you can just reinstate the whole thing from scratch using your cloud account backup. So to give you an idea of how these technologies come together in a finding scenario, when you're far from your tag, or you think you are anyway, you use the long-range radio to request the tag location. So you send a message to wake up the tag. The tag wakes up, acknowledges that wake up, and then proceeds to try and get a new GPS location. And when it does, it will ping that back to you over the LoRaWAN network. You then head off to the general area of that GPS location, and then you can start to use one of the two ranging methods. So the first is the hybrid ranging, and this, like I said earlier, acts like a VHF pinger, where you get a signal strength reading on your phone, and you move in the direction that gives you the stronger signal strength until you're considerably closer. When you're within a certain signal strength threshold, that's configurable in the phone settings, the device will switch over to the UWB ranging, and this will give you a distance in meters to your tag, and then you can proceed to get closer still. Even if you can't see the tag or the animal, you can get closer. If it's camouflaged or hiding behind a bush, you know for sure if you've got that measurement how far away you are from it. Final point is the range of the system is limited by the LoRaWAN connection link. We have a means to address that by a feature we just released end of last week, which is called Relay. This allows you to put the Finder, which is your network gateway, on a drone or on a mast or on a balloon, on a tethered balloon, for example. That allows you to get a lot of height and also distance. And using the relay device, you can then, as you would normally would with a Finder, communicate via the Finder to the tag. And this has the effect of doubling the potential range of your system. In principle, up to 40 kilometers, if you could fly a drone as far as 20 kilometers.
Sorry to interrupt. We are running very, very over time. Do you want to wrap it up?
Sorry, that's my last slide.
I'm sorry. I know you're getting a lot of questions in the chat. There's questions about security. There's questions about setting up LoRa networks and size of tags. There's a lot of interest. So I would definitely, can you jump into the chat and pick up the questions?
Yeah,
and I think
sure.
Hopefully you're going to be okay to hang around for after
I'll
hours.
be here after the talk as well.
Perfect. Okay, we have lots of questions from people that we want to cover, so we will pick them up afterwards. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to wrap you up like that.
No, thank you. Sorry.
All good. Chelsea, do you want to jump in?
Yes, I will jump in. Hi everyone, I'm Chelsea. I'm with Fauna Flora, and I'm going to quickly talk through geospatial data applications for enhanced conservation management and how we bring data and people together to inform decision making. Really quickly, I work with Fauna Flora. Fauna Flora is the world's oldest nature conservation NGO, and we've been working for over a century to protect the diversity of life on Earth. We only work where we've been invited to work, supporting, sustaining, and strengthening local conservation action around the world to provide direct support to people and species on the front line of biodiversity crisis. We work with local conservation partners to protect habitats, revive oceans, combat climate change, and so much more. The work we do is wide-ranging across over 40 countries, and it's an exciting place to work, with every project having an impact on some of the world's most interesting and at-risk species and habitats. I work in the conservation technology team, where our focus is on connecting people to tech that will help draw insights and increase the impact of their data. We've grown in the past couple of years from being a largely geospatial-focused team of 2 to a team of 5, growing with the ever-increasing demand and variety of requests for tech applications in our projects globally. In the past year, I've been involved in projects ranging from identifying restoration sites for the critically endangered Cowbeard gibbons, designing new marine management areas off the coast of St. Lucia, and assessing vegetation health using remote sensing following restoration actions. As such a small team, we're constantly looking for ways to support our in-country staff and partners in more efficient and accessible ways to bring about a greater sense of ownership of data and increase the amount of data we can analyse to increase our conservation impact. With so many colleagues working and collecting data in the field, we want to maximise the rich data they're collecting by linking it with geospatial data such as high-resolution satellite imagery to identify relationships that can help inform our field team's management actions. But on the flip side of that, we have so much rich data content that we struggle to keep up with the analysis demand. So we're looking for ways to increase efficiency, such as through automatic species identification of camera trap images and developing apps to assist in translating ranger data into occupancy analysis outputs. As a quick example of how we're bringing together geospatial data and people, under a current grant from the Connected Conservation Foundation, we have access to 50 centimetre resolution satellite imagery to help us to transform our work in 3 game reserves in South Sudan. The high resolution imagery will allow us to produce land cover maps with greater detail and accuracy than ever before, helping us to target a conservation effort areas identified as most vulnerable. We're currently exploring which method to use to generate the land cover maps from this imagery. Although we would love to use very high resolution imagery in all of our projects, this is the first that we've been able to apply thanks to the grant from Connected Conservation Foundation. So we're open to suggestions on how to maximise the use of this imagery. At the moment, we're considering using machine learning, object-oriented classification, and would be keen to hear if anyone has any advice or experience with working with such high resolution satellite imagery. Once we have developed the land cover maps, we'll use these in conjunction with data collected by field teams, such as through smart patrols and camera traps. The team in South Sudan is keen to try automated species tagging for these camera trap images. Pulling these multiple data sources together will generate connectivity and occupancy models. We're excited to see how the data sets we produce with this satellite imagery will reveal more about the landscapes we work in. The land cover maps and connectivity outputs will be utilised to inform targeted conservation management decisions, such as through community engagement to inform land use management and practices. In the context team at Fauna Flora, we support our in-country staff and partners to access technology and apply data collection, management, processing, and analysis to support and maximise conservation impact. But we're a small team and we have a lot of data, but we have limited time and resources to explore new and innovative methods and techniques to increase the efficiency of our work. We're currently exploring the application of very high resolution satellite imagery and would love to hear if you have any ideas for the best methods to produce land cover maps from that imagery. We're interested in automatic species tagging of camera trap images, in particularly East and West Africa, although all of our projects globally are also interested in this. We really want to be more active in the WILDLABS community, so please do feel free to reach out to us. I think Hattie and Meredith are currently in the chat as well, and my email address is there if anyone else would like to contact. That was a really quick whistle-stop tour. Steph, I hope that's in time.
Chelsea, you've put almost, not really, but you've almost put us back on track. Well done. But awesome. Thank you so much. I asked you today because I just thought it might be interesting to hear. We hear, and like this whole session today has been kind of from the tech side, or like more on the tech innovations side of things. But you guys are providing, you guys work day in, day out with people in the field, conservationists in the field, and hear about their challenges and the data they're working with and the experience they have. And I just thought it might be interesting for our community to hear from within one of the big NGOs about how the tech teams work and like the sort of challenges. And you're kind of the conduit between our community and all of like FFI's field staff, right? So the big thing you're looking to hear from, if anyone has experience, is to hear from people with satellite image processing experience. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've currently got some very high resolution satellite imagery that we're looking to do some object-based orientated classification. But we have never done that before. So we would love any advice if anyone has got any. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, you know where Chelsea is, and we'll have it in the recording as well and connect people with you afterwards. Okay, our final speaker. Sorry, everyone, we're going to go a little bit late, but I think this is very well worth it. Miao, you're going to talk about Pytorch-Wildlife, which you've been sharing on WildLabs, and I got emails requesting to give you a spot to talk about this because it's so interesting and important and such a useful tool. So do you want to jump in and take it away?
Yeah, let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so that's the only slide that I'm having, so I will be relatively quick. So hello everyone, my name is Zhongqi Miao. I usually go by Miao for easier memorization and pronunciation. So I come from Microsoft AI for Good Lab. So today I'm going to give you a brief introduction of Pytorch-Wildlife, a tool that we have been working on for a while. So generally speaking, Pytorch-Wildlife is a deep learning platform for AI models in conservation for conservation purposes. It's built on top of our previous effort made by Dan on about mega detector. So generally speaking, before we have mega detector, and then we want to expand our effort from mega detector to other types of AI tasks, for example, classification models, and in the future, maybe segmentation models and etc. So there are a couple points that we have in our mind that we are building Pytorch-Wildlife is, first of all, we want to make it as user-friendly as possible for especially people with limited to no engineering background, especially the majority of the community in AI in the conservation area. So we want to make the tool as accessible as possible to people in the community. At the same time, because we came from an engineering background, so we want to make the tool also as easy to be used or extended to developers with engineering background. So the code, we hope the code is cleaner and shorter in many different ways in terms of engineering protocols and engineering standards. So these are the two major points that we have in our mind and when we are building up like a Pytorch-Wildlife. And then there's a third thing that we wanted to be is extensibility and expandable. So we wanted to be expanded, even though currently we only have mega detector and a couple of classification models, but ultimately we want it to be expandable for users to actually apply or submit their models with Pytorch-Wildlife standards, such that everything can come together within the whole, within the same system or on the same platform. At the same time, we are linking to a data set, also a database actually, also made by Dan called Lila. I saw somebody in chat asking, saying that we need probably a ImageNet type of data for conservation. And I think Lila is actually an ImageNet for conservation. It has all standardized data sets designed for AI, for conservation machine learning, and involving all sorts of different tasks, including detection, animal detection, classification, even segmentation. So it's such a wonderful job. So we want to also connect to those type of data sets for people to actually either use those data sets for training their own models or use those data sets for testing their models. Besides those data sets and models, we also are, hosting or trying to provide some utility functions for easier for different types of use cases. For example, different types of visualization functions, some demonstration UIs, and data organization and management tools. So this whole platform is currently a pip installable package. So the installation process is relatively cleaner than it used to be, and we have an extensive tutorial on how the installations can be, and we are making it compatible to all operating systems from Mac, Linux, and Windows machines. And most importantly, we are making it always open to the community. And here we have like 2 QR links. One is a Hugging Face demo, so that people can take a look at how the tool is presented or demonstrated. For example, here is a web app demo that you can find on Hugging Face, but generally showcasing what the functionalities are included in Pytorch-Wildlife. For example, choosing different detection models. Currently, we only have mega detector, and choosing different classification models to do the simple demo functions. At the same time, we have a Discord server specifically for asking questions for Pytorch-Wildlife. Yeah, so I think these are all I have for today.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, we're only 5 minutes over. Do we have time for any questions? There's a lot of excitement and people wanting to try things out. Sarah, do you want to jump in and ask your question? I think you posted this in your registration as well. Do you have a mic?
Yeah, so the latest question asking, okay, sorry, Sarah.
No, you're in the car. Sarah's in the car. Let me read it out for the benefit of the recording. For Pytorch-Wildlife, I'm happy to hear if you'll focus any work for models running on the edge, e.g. making the mega detector model as small as possible, converting the model to run on microcontrollers.
So that's actually the same question. I mean, I will have the same answer for the second question, asking whether there is a mega detector V6 around the corner. So generally speaking, the performance of mega detector V5 is kind of like satisfying in most cases. But the issue with mega detector V5 is that it was trained on the extra large YOLO V5, which is the largest model from YOLO V5. So we are actually working on a mega detector V6, not trying to improve the performance, but try to provide different model sizes for similar performance. Well, one of the size is going to be the smallest YOLO model that was designed to be compatible on low-end devices, even for like camera systems. So that's one thing that we're thinking in the future, is that because a lot of people are asking whether they can actually put mega detector on cameras such that they don't have to like collect the data and come back to process all the data at the end or in the back end. So that's one thing that we are currently working on. And yes, we are working on smaller models that supports low-end devices. Yeah.
Dan also says he's working on mega detector 5.1, which is super compatible with what you've been working on. Okay, I'm going to, one question I had is there's a proliferation of different camera trap systems and collaboration and different projects. Is Pytorch-Wildlife going to help with that? Is it going to integrate with everything?
Yes. So that's our like view. We hope that this is an open platform that people can use this platform on their project or bring their project into the platform. For example, releasing their model with Pytorch-Wildlife, like the existing models that we already have with Pytorch-Wildlife. So we have in the graph, we have two types of models. One is basically built from our group, AI for good models or AI for good weights, and we can also support user-submitted models. We already published or released a model fine-tuning toolkit that's compatible with Pytorch-Wildlife. So if basically people use that toolkit to train their own model, these models are already compatible with Pytorch-Wildlife and can be released through Pytorch-Wildlife.
My final question is like a combination of a couple of questions that have come from the chat. How user-friendly is Pytorch-Wildlife for a non-coder on a scale of 1 to 10? And are there any plans for GUI wrapper for Pytorch-Wildlife for non-coders?
Yes, exactly. So currently, Pytorch-Wildlife for non-coders, the user-friendliness, I would say it's about 5 to 6. So there's still gaps for people without engineering background to make full use of Pytorch-Wildlife. And that's why we have made a demonstration UI to just for people try out what different functionalities that we have in Pytorch-Wildlife. But at the same time, we're also collaborating with people who are actually making UIs for before for mega detector. Right now, they are trying to expand it to Pytorch-Wildlife such that we can provide those UIs that's maybe 9 out of 10 user friendliness to people without like engineering background. Yeah, and at the same time, we don't want to like compete with people who already have made UIs. That's why we made the code as user friendly as possible for developers to add the current code base into their current like pipeline or projects.
Okay, I'm gonna echo Dan's shout out to EcoAssist, which is a nice GUI that runs both megadetector and other classification models. So that might be somewhere to go for our less engineering type audience. Oh, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat. I'm gonna wrap us there. Thank you so much, Miao, and everyone else that has spoken today, Chelsea, Craig, and thank you, and Jason, and wait, who have I forgotten? Lasha. Thank you so much, everyone, and to all of you guys who have been here. We will be hanging out, as always, for the next half hour to just have a chat offline, well, unrecorded, online. But otherwise, we will be here again next month, last Wednesday of the month. Talia's just dropped in a registration form. If you want to be a speaker, if you want to hear someone speak, please drop me an email. I love getting suggestions. I listen to lots of them. I don't listen to all of them, but suggestions are definitely welcome, especially if I hear the the same thing from multiple people as well. Anyway, let's wrap this here. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful to be back for this year, and we'll see you next month. Bye.